Welcome to the Alaya region, a Pokemon region based on Los Angeles, California, where the conceptual games Pokemon Lapis and Pokemon Garnet would take place. Alaya has plenty of sights and Pokemon to see, so let's not waste any time and introduce the starters. So here we have Hamini, Hottart, and Vixie. Once again, I'm going to challenge you all to guess the final type combinations for these starters before seeing the final stages, and then edit the comment when you find them out. And no cheating by skipping to the end. Like before, I'll be hearting comments for the first few hours that this video goes live, so get those comments in and make sure to watch the whole video. And don't worry, I know some of you are thinking, where's the California brown bear or the California condor? But trust me, those Pokemon are present in this region, and they have a big presence. So where you would start your journey in Alaya depends on if you chose Lapis or Garnet. Sorry to the Steven Universe fans who are currently frothing at the mouth at that naming scheme. Either way, you would meet Professor Redwood to receive your starter, with him having the giant-like stature of the trees he's named after. So, let's begin how almost every Pokedex begins, with the grass starter, Hamini, the grass hummingbird Pokemon, a grass flying type. That I worked with Foongoos to create, along with the rest of the starters in this video, so make sure to check out his link in the description. Also, check out Jumpluff Music, who did the music for Devar, Ensum, and now Alaya. Their link is also in the description. Hamini would make for our first ever hummingbird Pokemon at this point, and I can hear you shouting, Cutiefly! All the way down in the comments, but Cutiefly is based on a bee fly, not a hummingbird. There are tons of different species of hummingbirds in California, but Hamini is based on the broad-tailed hummingbird. With it having this green, white, and magenta plumage, combined with the fact that hummingbirds are pollinators, I thought it would make an excellent basis for a grass starter. Hamini is a pollinator as well, zipping over the many flowers across Alaya. It will build up pollen within its feathers, and the unique chemicals within its plumage can transform them into a powder, which it can later release that can paralyze or put to sleep those that interact with it. This powder is mostly used to help it escape from potential predators, as any that grab Hamini will suffer the powder's effects on contact. This dex entry manifests in its new move, Pause Powder, which is basically a fusion of Stun Spore and Sleep Powder, but with slightly better accuracy. It would have a 50-50 shot of causing either effect, which is the trade-off. Better accuracy, but you don't know what effect you're getting when you use it. And if you paralyze it first, you can no longer use the move on that target, as it will give you the blank is already paralyzed message. This is basically the ability Effect Spore as a Pokemon move, minus the poison. We could even give Hamini Effect Spore as a hidden ability, though I feel that might be a bit overkill on the whole pollen theme. And I would like you to overkill those like and subscribe buttons, so my content can become a theme in your watch history. So go do that now. I'll wait. Go ahead, it's right down there. Now let's talk about our fire starter, Hottart, the tiny shell Pokemon, a pure fire type. Somebody get that skeleton kit on the line because Hottart would give us a full type trio of Testodyne starters. Hottart's category is a nod to this, as Squirtle is the tiny turtle Pokemon, and Turtwig is the tiny leaf Pokemon. The specific tortoise Hottart is based on is the desert tortoise, which is native to the Mojave and Sonoran deserts of the southwestern United States, both of which can be found in California. By now, you may have noticed I've incorporated things that are just generally from California rather than specifically the LA area. Well, that's because Alaya is similar to Unova in that the map is based on the city, but it takes from the surrounding area. In this case, Alaya itself is based on LA, but takes from the whole of California, the West Coast, and some neighboring states. You can see this most clearly on the map, with the Redwood and Sequoia National Parks being referenced towards the middle of the map, Joshua Tree on the east side, and California Wine Country on the west side of the map. Also, to explain the name of the region, it comes from the word playa, which means beach in Spanish. Shout out to my LA Tinos watching. It also has the word play in there, as LA is certainly known as a party city, which is why it's pronounced that way. And the beginning is the acronym LA backwards. Plus, when you put it all together, it sounds like you're saying LA in a Valley Girl accent. You should totes go to Alaya. Trust, you'll love it. Also, with the Pokemon World Championships taking place in Anaheim this year, I figured what better time to make a region based on the greater LA area. Anyway, enough region design and Valley Girl accents. Let's get back to Hottart. This cutie is actually also based on a kind of turtle, the painted turtle, giving you the full Testodyne experience here. This turtle is more so found in the northern half of the US, unlike the desert tortoise. Hottart takes the painted part a bit more literally, as each one has a unique painting-like flame on their shell. This mark is given by Hottart's parents, using their searing flame to decorate their child's shell, which continues to burn for the time they're a Hottart. These act as a way to identify them, being a stand-in for its name. And don't worry, this doesn't hurt them because 1, it's a fire type and therefore resists it, and for 2, unlike real turtles, Hoturt don't have pain receptors in their shell. It's actually quite the opposite, as this painting almost acts like a protective sigil on the Pokemon, warding off any that would try to attack the baby Hoturt. This is how this Pokemon presents its hidden ability, Flame Body. Though I wanted to give it the ability Magma Armor because the name fits the design so well, the effect just doesn't match the concept. And we have a concept for our water starter, Vixie, that doesn't feel like it matches up, but trust me, it will make sense here in a bit. Vixie is known as the Sea Fox Pokemon, and is a pure water type. It is based on Kit Foxes, which are some of the smallest Vulpines in the world, referred to as the North American equivalent to the Fennec Fox, which given Fennekin is a fire type from a European-based region, and Vixie is a water type from an America-based region, it makes for a good parallel. Vixie is seen as a bit of a trickster, though it's just misunderstood. It likes to play pretend, with the species tending to have a wilder imagination than most. Vixie will play in the water, using their water-type moves to guide and show off what they're imagining. Not every Pokemon or trainer can pick up on that though, leading to them thinking they are being tricked into being splashed at best, and into a battle at worst. Vixie would most definitely learn the moves Trick Room and Trick at some point, which only makes people more confused as to its true motives. Maybe one day people will understand it. And that might not take too long, as at level 16, Vixie evolves into Lake Coyote, the Sea Coyote Pokemon, a water psychic type. Lake Coyote have a bit more of a flair for the dramatic than their base stage, able to better articulate their imagination with their actions and psychic powers. Lake Coyote make for excellent partner Pokemon in movies, which are filmed here at the home base of Pokestar Studios, Pokestar Hills, where most famous actors across Alaya and even some from Unova live. Lake Coyote are able to match the energy of their scene partner nearly perfectly every single time. This is thanks to its hidden ability, Co-Star. Which, can I just say, the fact that that's Flamingo's signature ability makes zero sense to me. Ah yes, the lawn flamingo that's also a boxing glove gets the acting-inspired ability. Anyway, I do think it could have Co-Star, or a new hidden ability which I thought could be called either Actor or Yes And, which basically works the same as Co-Star, but instead of copying an ally's stat changes, it copies the opponent's. The name Yes And comes from the very classic improv philosophy where you accept what someone says in a scene and then add to it, which copying the enemy stats on entry would certainly contribute something new to the battle. Would this be super broken? Maybe. Do I care? No. From there, let's evolve Hoturt, which at level 16 becomes Flarapace, the Molten Shell Pokemon, a fire rock type. Yes, it's quad weak to water. Please be nice to it in the comments. Please and thank you. This torrid tortoise is as jovial as it can be. It expresses this joy by using the lava held within its back to make different kinds of artwork, such as drawings of pure flame or sculptures made of cooled magmatic rock. You can find these works momentarily in the desert to the east of the map, known as the Dancing Dunes, with the winds and earthquakes of the area causing the sands to shift frequently, which also destroys Flarapace's creations. Though it doesn't matter to it, as true art is fleeting, right? Anyway, Flarapace's shell has multiple uses, as it can also be used to smelt different ores to make metal, acting like a mix between a volcano, a kiln, and a blast furnace. This is actually where its signature move, Furnace Blast, comes from. This is a base 70 fire type special attack where fire erupts from Flarapace's shell towards the target. This move is super effective against ground and rock types, and is quad effective against steel types, referring to the melting of ores into metal like I said before, and how kilns are used in ceramics, which both rock and ground types have featured as design inspirations before. Now, back to our grass starter Hamini, who at level 16 evolves into Hamoter, the grass generator Pokemon, a grass electric type. Y'all know how much I like making Pokemon with interesting type combos. We still don't have a wholly original Pokemon that has been the grass electric type combo, with a Rotom form and a regional form for Voltorb being our only representation for it at this point. So who better to be the first one than a starter Pokemon? Also, once again, I can hear you down in the comments. Yes, the types for this trio of starter don't make a complete secondary type triangle, but there have been multiple instances of starter Pokemon having secondary types that don't interact with the other starters, and having to make starter Pokemon that fit within those parameters is extremely limiting. I mean, I truly despise the idea of making starters whose secondary types just shuffle between the Psychic, Dark, Fighting, Fairy, and Ghost types around over and over again, and I'm sure Game Freak does too. Tangent aside, Hamoter generates large amounts of electricity from the beating of its wings, which beat incredibly fast just like a hummingbird in real life. Motors are also known to give off a humming sound which lines up well. Hamoter stores electricity in these little spots in its armpits, or should I say wing pits. Anyway, it's just like how Pikachu stores it in its cheeks. If its stores are full, it will give off a loud hum. It can release this energy using Toxtricity's signature move, Overdrive. Hamoder adds in a new hummingbird as an inspiration with the Calliope hummingbird. Males of the species have this more bright purple plumage that sticks out when it's resting, the shape of which has this spiky, jagged look that made me think of electricity. Upon evolution, I think its hidden ability could change from Effect Spore to a new ability that I've named Pollinate, which turns all normal type moves into the grass type. I know this doesn't exactly expand its electric type move pool, but to replace that, it would naturally learn many electric type moves and would have many available via TM. Let's stay with this line. So at level 36, Hamoder evolves into Humminbard, the Grass Bard Pokemon. With a name and a category like that, of course this Pokemon is another entry into the list of musician starter Pokemon, which makes a complete type trio with Skeledirge and Primarina. But rather than being inspired by classic music like mariachi, fado, and opera, Humminbard is inspired by more pop, rock, and electronic music, being inspired by pop and rock stars with a dramatic fashion sense like Billie Eilish, Chappell Roan, and Lady Gaga. Basically all queer icons. You can see it even has a little part of its body that looks like a stage mic. This is not only meant to be a literal hummingbird, but also comes from the Calliope hummingbird, with Calliope being the Greek muse of poetry, known for her eloquence and beautiful voice, which is actually what the name Calliope means, beautiful voice. It is also a kind of musical instrument that is a form of steam whistle organ originating from America. If you are familiar with old-timey circuses, carousels, or steamboats, then you've probably heard a Calliope playing before. Calliopes are famously very loud, being able to be heard miles away, which acts as an inverse to hummingbirds, which are incredibly quiet despite their rapid wing beats, and can also work as a reference to live concerts, with modern ones basically requiring earplugs to stand in the front row. The entire Humminbard line has music themes within their design. Hummini is meant to reflect more classic music composers, with its plumage looking like a frilly shirt or cravat and tailcoat. And Hamoder is meant to reference flamboyantly dressed classic rock icons like Elvis, Kiss, and David Bowie as Ziggy Stardust. Moving back to our Firestarter line, Flarepace at level 36 evolves into Bohistia, the Hearth Shell Pokemon. This Pokemon's shell acts as a meeting point for many different kinds of Pokemon looking for warmth on those cold desert nights. Bohistia absolutely welcomes the company, exuding warmth not only from its shell, but its personality as well. Keeping its artistic flair, pun intended, from its previous stages. It creates communities of its previous stages and other like-minded creative Pokemon around itself. This leads me into its name. Let's start with the end of its name, coming from Hestia, the Greek goddess of the hearth, home, sacred and sacrificial fire. The first part of its name comes from Bohemia or Bohemian, which is a community of artists that typically go against the status quo. That sacrificial fire, Bohemia, and the shape of Bohistia's shell becomes one giant reference to the famous yearly festival known as Burning Man, a temporary collective of artists that come together to create art and music for a week in the middle of the Black Rock Desert in Nevada, ending it all by burning down an enormous effigy of a person. Though it's held in Nevada, it very much originates from California, with the first Burning Man happening on Baker Beach near San Francisco. Bohistia's shell is inspired by the Temple, another thing that is burned at the ending of Burning Man and is seen as just as important. This shell is specifically inspired by the Temple of the Heart from 2023's Burning Man, with the inside of the shell reflecting both the lighting from within the temple and its burning. As I'm sure you've noticed, this entire line reflects different mediums of visual art: painting, ceramics, and sculpture. I tried very hard to separate this from the other fire turtles, Torkoal and Turtonator, and I feel as though with this theme I managed to do that. Okay, so on to the final stage for our water starter. So at level 36, Lake Coyote evolves into Whirlwolf, the Sea Wolf Pokemon. Okay, so finally I can explain this Pokemon's origin. While usually water starters are some form of semi-aquatic animal, and foxes, coyotes, and wolves don't really fit that criteria, there is a type of canine from indigenous mythology in the Pacific Northwest area called a Gonocadet, also known as the sea wolf. I tried my best with that name. There is no pronunciation guide on the internet that I can find. If you're familiar with Loxton's Cascade region, you've probably heard of this creature before. But this creature is said to have the head of a wolf and the body of a sea creature, and is where Whirlwolf's category comes from. Which, if you think about it, kinda sounds like the description of a sea lion, which their young are also called pups, just like wolves. There is another wolf-sea creature hybrid also from indigenous mythology called the Auklut, which is like a hybrid between an orca and a wolf. This line's coloration is inspired by the Auklut, being darker blue rather than black. Its bipedal and more humanoid shape that has become more typical with starter Pokemon as of late, combined with its name, becomes a reference to werewolves. And the Vancouver Coastal Seawolf also exists, which this line and the wharf part of its name refers to. Whirlwolf in its final stage has become emblematic of what many thought its base stage was, a trickster, using its psychic powers to make fools of people and Pokemon that dare contend with it. It hauls its massive tail over its shoulder when it walks on land, but it greatly assists it when swimming, making massive whirlpools in the water behind it. Okay, so that's cool and all, but why is it wearing a pinstripe suit? Well, that's where this line's secondary theme comes in. This entire line is based on acting. There are layers here, so stay with me. This line refers to the phrase, a wolf in sheep's clothing, pretending to be something you're not. Which, like, is that not one of the main aspects of acting? I mean, except if you're Seth Rogen or Jeff Goldblum. Those dudes play themselves in nearly every role. Not saying that's a bad thing, it's just true. Anyway, Vixie is meant to emulate the young, aspiring actor, full of hopes, dreams, and imagination. Lake Coyote is the actor who made it, and has found their spotlight. Then finally, Whirlwolf is the jaded actor who fell off after years in the public eye, not being able to land the same roles they could when they were younger. A real curmudgeon-y vibe. With it being a mix between a sea creature and a wolf, you could also say it's a wolf acting like a semi-aquatic animal, a wolf in Orca's clothing. It also has literal clothing. Which leads me into the group theme for these starters. They are all based on different art forms. Whirlwolf represents acting, as I just said, Bohesia represents visual art, and Hummingbird represents music. Los Angeles is one of the most artistic cities in the country, so I thought this as a theme made the most sense. But you guys know me, do I ever just make one theme and call it quits? So these final stages are also inspired by different California cryptids. Hummingbird is inspired by the roperite, a bird-like creature with a long, rope-like beak used to capture prey, which hummingbirds are also known for their incredibly long, rope-like tongues that wrap around the inside of their head. Bohesia is inspired by the funeral mountain Terrashot, a creature with an oddly casket-shaped shell that traverses through the desert in great numbers, with the temple that Bohesia's shell is inspired by acting like a metaphorical casket for Burning Man and people traveling through the desert to get to it, and has Terra in its name. Whirlwolf already has a mythological inspiration, but I layered in the Diablo Fishman. This cryptid is said to have a creature from the Black Lagoon as skull face, a radioactive hand, a hazmat suit with a missing mask with seaweed draped over its shoulders, and a blue fishing net around its shoulders as well. So you have the tail of Whirlwolf acting like the seaweed and blue fishing net, it having its own suit, like fur, and the radioactive hand mirroring Whirlwolf's psychic powers, giving us a Jedi mind trick kind of vibe. This Pokemon is a part man, part fish, part wolf, which truly sounds like the basis for an old Hollywood monster movie. Let me know which starter you would pick on your journey through the Alaya region. And a huge shout out to our amazing members who go that extra mile to support the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.